A good afternoon, everyone, and um, I'm looking very much to listening to the presentation this afternoon from Philip Collicutt, who's a teacher at the Provincial Correctional Facility, so Philip, we're very much interested in understanding your world and some of the opportunities and challenges that you work with every day, working with the folks out at the center. So over to you, and we look forward to your presentation.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I guess I have to apologize for the technological issues that we face. Everything was set up and ready to go, and our laptop that we use for Zoom here at the Correctional Center decided to do an update, and it went from 86% to 89% in the time that we were trying to set this up. So that's my first and foremost apology. It's probably a benefit for you folks that are actually watching or listening online, because you won't have to look at me. But as I was introduced, my name is Philip Collicutt. I am the educational specialist out here at the Correctional Center. That's a fancy word for being the teacher. I've been in this position off and on due to COVID for the last 3.5 years. And basically, when we have class in session, there are, on any given day, we would have approximately 70 to 100 inmates in custody, and we break them up in different units. So depending on the unit that they are in, they are allotted an hour of school time each day, and I could have anywhere from, right now on average, there's about 15 inmates that are coming on a given day. I have had days where there's up to 20, and there's also days where, as you can probably guess, there's give or take about 2 to 3. I would say that most of the clients that we see on a regular basis are here to get their GED, their equivalency to a grade 12, and I've had success over the years over the time that I've been here. There's been approximately 7 people, I think, to my latest count, that have successfully completed all of their GED requirements, and many others would have completed part of the requirements for that as well. We would see the biggest struggle that we would get would be people coming in here, obviously, that don't have their GEDs, having dropped out of school. I would say anywhere from grade 9 to grade 11 is probably the average time that they drop out, and come to me then, having been in and out of school. Some of them have dropped out up to 10, 15 years ago, and luckily, if we're fortunate, they've dropped out, I guess, just within the last couple of years, and then come into our facility and can continue from there. So I don't really know what we're supposed to talk about, but if anybody has questions, I guess, Bryn, can they ask them at this point?
Sure, yeah, definitely. If you want anyone to ask questions, or if you want to talk about kind of a day in the life or whatever you prefer. I don't know, does anyone have questions off the bat?
Maybe what I'll do while people are getting questions, if they have any, is I'll just kind of go through my general day. So my general day starts at 8:30 in the morning. I take about 30 minutes to kind of go through emails. The classroom is also used for methadone distribution amongst one of the units. So once that all takes place, I open the classroom up from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock. We have a unit, it's the minimum right unit would come to school, and basically they come to school. Right now, there's 3 inmates that are coming from that unit. One of them is not looking at doing any GED work. He kind of just comes to get an hour of peace and quiet away from the unit, and then the other 2 that I have are looking at it. After that, I have a female come to school from 10 o'clock till 11. She is actually in the process of writing her GED. She's gotten 4 of the 5 subjects that she needs, and the only one left is math. I'm going on vacation beginning tomorrow morning, so I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, and she's potentially getting released from custody. But if she does stay, when I get back, she's about a month away from getting her math, and I have full confidence that she will get it. Then for the afternoon sessions that we have 3 sessions. One of them is from 1 o'clock till 2, where our max inmates are there. Just due to our facility regulations, I have to have a staff sit in with me. Even though I was a correctional officer prior to doing this, our max unit needs a staff. So there's 3 to 4 max inmates that are coming at this point. One of them, actually 2 of them, have been with me for quite a while. One of them only has the math left as well, and the other inmate has math and the writing component of the language arts to do, where he has to write an essay as well. I expect them to be finished as well, give or take, hopefully before the end of April. And then we have medium units. There's nobody really deep into medium. We just had 2 of them write and move on to, they got released from our custody. So it's kind of a new start in our medium unit. And then the last unit we have is the minimum left. And basically from there, that's my busiest unit. On any given day, there would be 10 people coming from that. It gets quite hectic in the classroom trying to teach. As you can imagine, with the adult education, the program is kind of open-ended. So I might have somebody working on science, I might have somebody working on math, I might have somebody working on social studies, and you're trying to juggle their learning needs with that. And I would say the biggest struggle for me teaching in this environment would be trying to adapt my teaching strategy to their learning, because as you can see, as you are all well aware, there's many different learning techniques. Some are visual, some are audio, some are hands-on, and I try my best to adapt to their learning strategies and teach to them. So that's kind of my day.
Amazing. I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything to get to know a little bit more.
Okay.
So if people in the jail are using your service for an hour a day, do they have ability to do homework or stuff in their own time?
I'm sorry, I caught some of that. It was an hour a day. Do they have the ability to do what? I'm sorry.
Take some of their do some work in their own time on their education in their cells.
Absolutely. So we provide them with a GED book when they go, and then any other additional resources I would provide for them as well. They will take their schoolwork back to their cells or their units, and depending on how motivated they are, they will work on that on their own. And then the best way it works is they actually then come to school with specific questions that they would then ask. And then I would sit down and kind of go over the material that they're struggling with or that they don't understand and go on from there. And then they would take the work back to their room again and kind of spend, I would say the average client would spend about an hour to an hour and a half on their own in the evenings. And then come to school and then spend the hour in school. So if they're motivated and doing well, they're getting about 2.5 hours of studying each day. And then the ones that are kind of less motivated, we'll say, they would just come to school for the hour that they're there and not really do any work on their own. But that's kind of the struggles that we face here. And the other advantages is, if they're super motivated, they could probably do the entire GED program, depending on their level of education, in anywhere from 3 to 6 months, whereas the ones that are less motivated might take upwards to 2 years to do the program on their own.
Thank you. Also, I was chatting with a colleague, so I may have missed something you said, but what resources are they given? Are they given like a computer to work on, or how does that work out? And can they take the stuff? Well, no, they can't take that back to their cells, but are they, what facilities are
so the
they
resources
given?
that we provide them Yeah, the resource that we provide them, obviously they all have their GED book that they're given. If they're working on mathematics, we would give them a calculator. As far as the computer and technological aspect, the inmates themselves aren't allowed access to the internet without direct supervision. So if they're here and they're struggling about a specific topic, I generally try to teach them myself. I have resources that I've accumulated over the years. If anybody's listening and wants a great one for mathematics, there's a Math Aids, AIDS, and you can literally print off worksheets for every subject that you would ever want. It's a dynamically created website as well, so I basically hit refresh and it prints off a brand new worksheet with different questions and answers. So if they're doing, let's say they're doing fractions and they need to learn how to reduce fractions, I could print off an unlimited number of resources instantaneously and print those off for them. As far as the technology or having the computers, though, there might be a YouTube video where they would be trying to learn a specific topic that I can bring up and show them that way. But I literally at that point have to be sitting right beside them while they're doing that. I do have a smart board that we were able to put in when I came into the position. I got them to install a smart board, and that's great for bringing in other resources as well. But as far as the dynamics of the classroom don't really allow them to do much on it at the time because the internet is open to whatever, and unless I'm sitting beside them, then I typically don't give them access to the computer. We are starting kind of initial discussion, and it's been ongoing for a while, but we're just kind of making some headway with Holland College to allow them to do some upgrading via the internet with them. So we're trying to work through the problems of how much time is required, how much time they're given. Sometimes people will come in here and they're only sentenced to a month or less. So are they able to do much education that way? The guys that are here longer, then obviously it's not as much of an issue. So we're just kind of in the initial stages of working through some of that stuff as well. And I'm looking at getting the technology department to set up the computers kind of similar to what you would have at the library, where it would be restricted network access. So then at that point, if they're interested in a specific topic, I can approve them to go onto the website, and whether it's like another university or another college kind of thing, they would have access to those resources as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you, Philip. What made you kind of switch from the corrections field into the teaching field? Is it the opportunity arose or kind of took on the need for it?
Sorry, there's some feedback there. I didn't quite catch you.
Sorry, that's my bad because my phone's on. Did you have any, or what kind of made you switch to the teaching position from corrections?
So I initially had gone through university to get my teaching degree, and I graduated back in 2004. I taught for a few years in the public school system, was never able to get a permanent position, just kind of going from term to term, contract after contract. And I got married, bought a house, and said I need something permanent where I actually have a set income as opposed to relying on kind of contract work. At that point, I applied to become a correctional officer and was successful. I was a correctional officer then in the system here from 2014 to 2019. And then at that point, our former education specialist, Joan McFarland, she retired, and they offered the position to me on a term basis while they went through the details. It had been quite some time since the position had been filled, so they had to go through the process of redoing the classifications and stuff. So I've been in and out of the classroom since then. COVID has basically been my biggest enemy because we'll have an outbreak here at the jail and all of the programs will then be put on hold or suspended. At that point, they'll move me back into the position of being a guard until things kind of settle down. So it's been 3.5 years of kind of moving back and forth. This is the longest stint I've been in here now, I believe, since early, I want to say May. So I've been here now for about 7 months, 7 to 8 months doing that without any breaks. And hopefully, knock on wood, we'll continue to do so.
No, perfect. Nice that you can at least switch between the two roles when in need to, although I'm sure it's very overwhelming
Yeah.
at times.
And the other advantage of that is as a guard, then I would know all of the inmates that we have, so they get that relationships built up. We're fortunate here on PEI because it's a provincial jail, and actually it's nice because the relationships that the correctional officers and inmates have on PEI is different than anywhere else. There's not really that stipulation where you would see inmates don't talk to guards, guards don't talk to inmates in other facilities, but we have open relationships here, and it's great because I can kind of joke around with them, and they'll be struggling with something. I'll be like, hey man, like just relax. And I kind of bring it to their level as well. So building up that rapport with them definitely helps. And you can kind of realize that there's ways to teach them that other people might not have the ability, that don't have the relationship built up with them.
I had a question. I'm not sure if my mic is working. You can hear me?
Yeah.
No, I can hear you.
Lovely, thank you. And I think you might have actually answered this question in part when you were answering a question Graham had, but is there a certain length of sentence that somebody has to be serving in order to be able to join or do the programming?
I think my former colleague that was in the position only dealt with sentenced inmates. So inmates that were on remand weren't usually given access to the classroom.
Right.
I never ever set that up. So I basically have said, like, if you're interested in school, come on over and I'll help you out. Because
Very
I would never want to be the one that turns somebody away from education.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. And then
And if they're here for a short time, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they're in for a short time and the chances of getting what they're looking for don't really provide that opportunity while they're here, then I will connect them with the resources outside, whether that be through Holland College or if they're interested in going to university, whatever. I would then set them up with the contacts that if you're truly interested in the education, here's how you can get it when you're out.
Yeah. So for example, the woman who may be released before she finishes her GED, will she be able to do that kind of outside?
Absolutely. So her instructions, if she gets out while I'm gone on my vacation, she is to contact me on April the 1st. I will then reach out to Holland College on her behalf and say this is the work that she's done. She is ready to write, or she needs this much work done before she's ready to write. And I actually used to work at Holland College as well, so I have a great relationship with the staff there, and they kind of trust me to say they're ready to write it or not.
That's awesome. Super cool. Another question that I had is, you mentioned you had a smart board and that you were, working with Holland College to maybe do some upgrading to the internet, but are there other things that you feel like you would need for better program delivery that you don't have, but that you can possibly have?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the list goes on.
No, that's a great question. Basically, I mean, perfect world. Obviously, there's lots of things that I would like to be able to introduce. We had kind of looked at doing a typing program for inmates that may not have the typing abilities, because as you know, if you can't type, it's hard to get jobs nowadays in any of the fields, or a lot of the fields. But we do have two classroom computers, and as part of the ongoing discussions with Holland College, I think they're maybe looking at different ways to increase that. So there'd be more computers, but then the struggle would be, if they're not set up, it's a matter of me literally sitting right beside them while they're on the computers to do whatever. As far as other programs, like I have a lot of guys that would be looking at going out west maybe and getting jobs when they're out there. I looked at maybe doing some ticket work. So if they're looking to get like their fall arrest, different things like that. And I think that might be something that would come of that with the John Howard Society as well, because I believe Tanner comes in and offers or sets them up to do quite a bit of that stuff as well. So that would be my goal there, is to potentially, if they're looking to get a specific ticket, they might be able to do that through the computers as well. But in all fairness, like the program that we have here personally,
if they're committed to it, it seems to work. And education is a matter of old school kind of, they're used to that because a lot of the clients that we would have haven't been in school where a lot of the educational changes has taken place. It's been 10 or 15 years since quite a few of them have been in school. So technology to them is different, because if you go to a school now, it's all technology.
Yeah.
They're using smartphones for everything. A lot of the guys and girls that we're dealing with, or a lot of the clients that we're dealing with, haven't had that integrated into their education system, so it hasn't been a struggle. That might be something that comes up down the road as we progress, where 10 years down the road now, the people that were in school did have that technology and were so reliant upon that. But
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. The ticket idea sounds super practical too. That would be interesting to see kind of the uptake.
And here's another kind of cool thing that we've been introducing here is, since COVID, a lot of the actual reading materials that we've had, because I also do a library here as well. Since COVID has come out, a lot of the books, unfortunately, had to be thrown out because that was the rules and regulations at that point. So if the books went to the units, they had to be tossed. So rather than replace them with new books, I've actually introduced an e-reading material book. So we've been able to purchase 10 e-readers, and using the library in Charlottetown, download specific books. So it's great for that as well. It's been very popular. I have 14 people on the waiting list right now, so I'm looking to get more e-readers, just to kind of increase that. And the nice thing about it is, if they're looking for specific books, the library usually will have it, whereas in our library, they might have, like, for a series of books, they're probably only going to have 2 or 3 of the 6 books in that series, where the library then will be able to provide them the other books. So it's a great initiative. It's kind of still relatively new, but it has had great success. And a lot of the clients really like it as well, because they're like, oh, it's a great babysitter. I just take my e-reader and go into my room and spend the whole evening there, as opposed to harassing staff.
My last question, I won't monopolize all your time, but I apologize if you mentioned it before, because I didn't tune in right at the very beginning, but for people with very low literacy skills, is there that kind of education as well? I think I heard you mention, if you're kind of looking from grade 9 plus, but is there kind of a more basic level as well?
So that is actually one of the struggles that we would have. I do have like pre-GED materials, and I have materials in the classroom that I'd be able to help pretty much, I don't want to say anybody, but quite a few of the lower level learning that we might see here. I find the biggest struggle, though, is that if somebody dropped out of school at a younger age, or if they weren't functioning at like a grade 9 or 10 level, they don't have the confidence, and it's almost like embarrassment.
Yeah.
So they're not going to say that they're interested in pursuing their education, because they're at such a low level that they don't think it's possible themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be one of the biggest struggles, is to convince them to say, hey, like, come to school, let's see what we got.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Very cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for your questions.
Thanks, Maggie. I don't know if anyone else has any questions for Philip.
It's Keith. I just had one question, and I guess what sort of I don't know if culture is the right word. What's the environment to encourage people to participate in your program? Is it considered amongst the population generally like this is a really good thing, or is this this is just BS, or I mean, I'm sure there's a mix of all that, but what's your sort of general sense is that is that, because there's probably people who are there who could benefit from getting their GED or other skills, and probably there's peer pressure that maybe, and maybe there isn't peer pressure there, but is there the pressure to say, well, you don't want to be part of that? Can you talk about that a little bit, about the environment you're in?
Yep. It's interesting that you bring that up, because it actually is a very peer pressure type environment that we are in. so when an inmate comes in, first of all, they would meet with one of our program officers and kind of discuss with them what their interests are, if they're interested in doing any of our programs we offer, whether it be anger management, education, so on and so forth. So for them to come in, right off the bat, they're kind of introduced to the concept of education as being possible while they're here, and then they would get placed on a unit. And we're very fortunate because right now, because there are inmates coming from each of the units, it's not such a social thing to be like, hey, I'm going to school, and the other inmates would look down on them. We also have quite a few of our more influential inmates who are coming to school as well. So they're encouraging other guys to go or other girls to go. So it's great right now. I have had times, though, when there's really not a lot of interest in schooling, and some of them might be like, hey, I wouldn't mind coming to school. And then other inmates would be like, well, why would you do that? Like, why are you wasting time? So it's a very influential building, and we're very fortunate at the present moment to have other inmates encouraging other inmates to come.
Yep.
But I can definitely see struggles where they will come in and be like, well, why would I ever waste my time going to school when John Doe is not going, and they'd look down on me, and I don't want to bring that negative heat, we'll say, to myself.
Right. Yeah.
Peer
Okay,
pressure is a big thing in jail, so for
yeah,
sure.
that's why I was sort of threw it out there. Anyway, no, thank you. Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it, Philip.
No problem.
I don't know if anyone else has any questions. Okay, great. Well, I think I can speak for everyone, Philip, when I say thank you for this. I think this was very informative despite any sort of technological issues we ran into. I think we all took a decent amount away from this for sure, and looking at kind of the importance of education through life and the different forms of education outside a traditional school setting. Always fascinating.
No, and I mean, it's certainly glad to be able to bring some awareness to the education program that we've got going on here as well. And I thank you for the opportunity to kind of to showcase what we have offered. Sorry about the technological difficulties. It's probably sitting at about 96% right now. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I'm going to go scold somebody for not having that ready for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Technology is great when it works.
Yes. Yeah. No, at least you're on vacation now, though. Hopefully everything's working well for that.
I'm just putting in my time right now till 4 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock I'm out the door.
Sounds like a plan to me.
But no, in all fairness, I do really enjoy my job. It's a very rewarding thing. One of my kind of claims that has kept me going is there's one inmate who came in here. He'd been struggling for years to get his GED, and he couldn't do math. And my background is in math. And he came with me, and we worked every day for probably 4 months, and he finally was able to pass it and get his math. And I mean, it's pretty rewarding when you see a 35, 40-year-old man break down in tears because he was actually able to get it. And it's like that's what the job is all about. Like,
Sure.
I went to school to be a teacher, to help others. And when you can see that, and that's your reward right there, that's all you need. So.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine for sure. And like you said, it's nice that you have the advantage of the smaller population size in PEI and can kind of have those one-on-one interactions and know everyone personally. I think that definitely would help them progress through and fill them with a lot more confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
I think it's good. Unless anyone had any last questions before we sign off. Great. Well, thanks again, Philip. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.